Hello all benders and non-benders, and welcome back to Avatar Generations, and today we are going to be talking about the newest version of Zuko to be added from the game. Hailing from Book 2, we have Ronin Zuko. Now the interesting thing here is this particular Zuko is actually a peace character. Little note there is that we now have our very first character who has both a peace character and a chaos character iteration. Kind of something interesting there. Wonder if we'll ever get that again, and who it would be if we do. But today we have Zuko. He is a peace character running with the factions Exile, Outlaw, and Swordmaster. So Swordmaster we don't see a whole lot. Exile is pretty standard on Zuko, and Outlaw has very recently been getting a whole lot of love. So this character, as of right now, is meta. Extremely meta. We've been kind of getting that a lot with new characters to an almost overwhelming degree, and this character is no exception. So let's take a look at what makes him tick. First of all, we have his basic, Path of the Exile. Deal 3 hits of banish damage to one enemy and inflict a special element on each enemy for 1 turn. Now what does banish damage do? 75% chance to remove 1 debuff from allies, remove a buff from a random enemy for each debuff removed. So basically, this dude can cleanse your allies of debuffs, and then when he successfully accomplishes this, he will remove a buff from an enemy for each for each debuff removed. So basically, if he removes 1 debuff from an ally, he will remove 1 buff from an enemy, 2 debuffs from allies, 2 debuffs from enemies, 2 buffs from enemies, and so on and so forth. So already very helpful there, and he will actually do this banish damage 3 times. So it's basically going to happen at least once whenever he attacks, maybe even more if you're having a really good day. Now, we're actually going to take a look at his passive here next, Zuko alone. We'll get to his advanced in a second and you'll find out why. Gain Wanderer's Shroud for 2 turns. Now Wanderer's Shroud, while he has this, his advanced and combo skills are disabled. He cannot be using combos, and he cannot use his advanced. Cannot die for 1 turn if Outlaw faction allies are alive at the start of the caster's turn. Basic skill enhanced when removed. So we're just going to break that down first. Wanderer's Shroud lasts for 2 turns. It's not really a debuff, more of just a limiter on him. It will last for 2 turns, where he can't use his advanced, he can only use his basic, and he can't be using combos. Now, the interesting thing here is that as long as an Outlaw faction hero is alive on your team, could be the new Iroh, could be Prisoner Katara, could be Prisoner Haru, one of those, he will get immortality while he has this Wanderer's Shroud, and even 1 turn after, if I'm correct. So, as long as somebody's alive, keeping that active, he won't die. And then, once he loses this, his basic skill gets enhanced. We'll talk about that in just a second. Next here on his passive, gain 50% increased turn bar and increase all stats by 50%, and instantly remove Wanderer's Shroud when 3 allies are defeated in battle. All damage dealt cannot be countered and increases based on the enemy's max HP and the caster's speed. So basically, if he ends up being the last man standing, he gets a massive power boost and the turn meter to basically make sure he will go as soon as possible. And all of his attacks will always increase based on the enemy's max HP and his own speed, meaning you want to build this guy fast. Now, let's say you're in battle and the Wanderer's Shroud finally disappears. What do you get? Well, first of all, you do get a new basic here, Path of the Exile Enhanced. Deal 3 hits of banish damage to 1 enemy and inflict a rank 2 fire element on each enemy for 1 turn. This ignores resistance. This can do some serious damage. Not only are you cleansing your team of debuffs and removing their buffs with that banish damage, but being able to inflict a guaranteed rank 2 fire element on the enemy can add up in a hurry, especially since it is each enemy. They'll all get 1 meaning that they'll start taking more damage and being dealt damage every single time they take a turn. Next, his advanced Searing Swords. Deal 1 hit of banished damage followed by 2 hits of Fire Blade damage to one enemy. Gain skill nullifier for 1 turn with a 35% chance to gain an extra turn. Fire Blade damage is a new thing. First of all, remove all defensive buffs. Invincibility, immunity, skill nullifier, gone. Inflict fire and special element on the enemy for 3 turns, ignoring resistance. So he gets to inflict both a rank 1 fire element and a rank 1 special element just for free. He hits him with this, he gets a skill nullifier, and inflicts those debuffs. This is a powerful, powerful move. It can one-shot a lot of people. Just a reminder that it will still scale on the enemy's max HP and his own speed. This hurts. This hurts a lot. So that is what we have for his abilities. Let's also take a look at his mastery here. At mastery level 2, enter a Defiant stance for 1 turn if Wanderer's Shroud is active when the caster attacks. Now, Defiant stance, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I know it basically grants you a dodge for the next turn, and I am totally forgetting what else it does. I seem to want to say that it also increases his damage a little bit, but I could be mistaken there. But I absolutely know it basically grants you a skill nullifier effect. Mastery level 3 here, decrease turn bar of all enemies by 50% when 3 allies are defeated in battle, basically kind of adding to the bonuses he gets here if he becomes the last man standing. And then Mastery level 4, permanently gain 2% increased attack and speed each time the caster gains increased turn bar up to 100%. This is meant to combine with the 50% you get up here. If I am not mistaken, it's basically every time you get 1% turn bar, you get increased turn bar rather. You get the 2% increased attack and speed. So if you go up to that 50% increased turn bar from being the last man standing, that jacks his attack and speed up to 100% right out the gate, if I am not mistaken. That's a big if there. So, serious damage, serious speed. That is the name of Ronin Zuko's game here. And you probably expected this, but he scales very nicely. If you give him some duplicates or some skill tokens, he can do some damage in a hurry and get some much needed effect durations on some of his effects here. Now, let's take a look at how to build him. There's some nice stuff here. Zuko, and by extension Iroh as well, we'll talk about him in a separate video, they are a dream to build. Their free-to-play options are fantastic, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Zuko, speed and attack. Lots of speed, lots of attack. You'll notice here we have the speed feather, we have the attack percent map here, we also have an attack percent on the amulet, and of course we have the 4-piece of the speed set. I basically have the immunity set here just because that's the best parts I've got, because that 15 extra speed you get on the feather here for being a legendary relic legendary art is very nice. However, if you do manage to score some really great Ronin set parts, put those on. Because a reminder what those do, those are another speed set. If you could mix in a 2 set of the Ronin set and a 4 set of the regular speed set, or vice versa, 4 set of the Ronin, 2 set of the speed, you are going to be booking. You are going to be really, really booking. But right now I kind of have to prioritize this feather because it's my only speed feather, this one and another legacy feather that I have. Additionally, you don't need to worry about his accuracy too much. Yes, his original basic can inflict the special element, but once he triggers his enhanced basic and gains the ability to get his advanced, both of those don't actually care about resistance. They completely ignore resistance, so you don't actually have to worry about that so much. So honestly, building him with some resistance is not bad, because even though he has immortality for the first few turns, he can still be stunned, he can still be knocked down. You don't want that. You definitely don't want that. So Resistance is the way I would recommend. Now, for his support options, he basically has two support options here. The Fire Nation Messenger Hawk. This works on Firebender characters. What will not work for him is the Rhino. The Rhino, unfortunately, is specifically Fire Nation. He does not have the Fire Nation tag. So as far as Firebender stuff goes, the Messenger Hawk is the way to go. Also, on a team using Ronin Zuko, the Messenger Hawk's going to be the way to go because it cranks up his speed and as such cranks up his damage. If you do get some options as far as the Ostrich Horse, if you do get enough duplicates to get some decent stats, that is another option as well. But we did pretty recently have the Messenger Hawk as a pretty free-to-play acquisition. I believe it was discounted in the Summon Shop a while back, I think when the Warden was released. So a lot of players do have the Messenger Hawk to use, but the Ostrich Horse is absolutely an option as well. Now, here's the fun part, the relics. We have not one, but two fantastic free-to-play relics that you can get for him right now. First one is the Iron Encampment Relic. This one you can acquire in the Arena Shop. This is for Outlaw characters, and what it does, 75% chance to remove buffs and positive states from all enemies if 2 or more debuffs are present on any target when the caster attacks. So just to break this down here, 75% chance to remove all buffs and positive states. That includes Vanish, that includes Pirate Man's covering stance, that includes Kyoshi's Vengeance stance. Anything like that, it'll just straight up remove it. If there are 2 or more debuffs on any target when he attacks, and with this character, especially if you combine him with the new piece Iroh, there will be a lot of debuffs. This thing is great. It can remove invincibility very easily. It can even clean up the buffs on other allies, or excuse me, other enemies, even if they're not the one you are attacking. So this is a fantastic option for him. And we have yet another option in the form of Journey for Purpose. This is an Exile relic and currently available as a reward for the currency you gain from the event quests featuring Ronin Zuko and Piece Iroh. What this will do, increase the HP and attack of all exiles by 30%. This does not stack with the same effect, so basically you can't have 4 characters with a single copy of Journey for Purpose. It will only work once. And then heal for 40% of max HP when the caster receives a crushing hit. So this is just a massive stat boost. 30% increase to HP and attack is immense and will really crank up Zuko's damage. You can put this on Zuko, or you could even put this on Iroh. We'll talk about that in a future video. And just give a team-wide buff to all Exile characters. This is a incredible relic in my opinion, and I would absolutely grind this one out to max it out, if at all possible. We don't know, once it leaves the shop, we don't know when it will come back, or even if it will come back. So just kind of keep in mind that this could be a very rare relic to actually acquire. Don't miss out on it. It is great. It's even usable on just the original Fire Nation Zuko. That's a 4-star character that is fantastic and would be made even more fantastic with this relic. Of course, as usual, you do have your other options, some 4-star options, if I'm not mistaken here. There actually are not a whole lot of options for him to use, because being a Firebender but not a Fire Nation character, it limits him a surprising amount. But if you have gotten a few copies of the Sungi Horn here, that is helpful for just bulk pretty much. A lot of people have been using Gambler's Dice as well. What this one does is just a hefty speed buff, and then you kind of roll the dice on whether or not you get buffs or debuffs. That speed buff you get though, it's helpful. It is very helpful. I have seen some people using Gambler's Dice to extremely great effect. But honestly, like I said, move on those free-to-play relics quick, because they are undoubtedly your best options. So that is all we have for today. Let me know down in the comments below if you found this video helpful. Very, very soon we shall also be talking about Peace Iroh. So look forward to that. Like the video and subscribe if you have not already, and we shall see you next time. Have a good one.